Hey everybody, how's it going? Got a little bit of a cold weather spell this week. It is minus 35 Fahrenheit, minus 37 Celsius. Um, Super cold, and being an outdoor worker, I ain't doing it. When I was younger, we'd go into crawl spaces in this kind of weather, but as you get older, it's especially laying on your back and stuff like that, you get cold and it takes 24 hours to thaw. So a little bit of a cold weather day. It's funny. It's been so mild this winter. Um, I'm almost too hot in my winter gear, and we haven't had a single snow day this year. Most winters, there'll be half a dozen snow days due to snowstorms where I physically can't get to the city, and even if I do, the job sites are full of snow. So um, we got to play with this Super Pro 70. I'm super glad that you guys enjoyed the assembly video, and there's a lot of support for that video, a lot of good comments. You bicycle guys, we've had motorized bicycle guys in here, and that's cool. Welcome. A two-stroke is a two-stroke. One of them mentioned maybe I should port a motorized bicycle engine. I'm not opposed to that thought. I have some ideas about what we could do with that. Maybe I'll order one in the future. I don't know what size. I noticed they're like 50, 80, or 100 cc's, and take a crack at one. That would be fun. Why not? So welcome. And actually, I started hopping around YouTube and checking out motorized bicycle channels. It's cool. It's another hobby that I didn't even know existed. So kind of neat. A lot of guys are porting those motors. It's the same as what we do with these, but it's different. The heads come off. Could be an interesting thing for me to take a whack at those. Or my thoughts are not relevant to those motors. I don't know. I was studying bores and strokes and just being a nerd like I am, and kind of cool. Okay, so I did run this saw. I barred it up the other day, a few days ago, and put it in some wood. Slowly ramping it up. It was still pretty fat in that video. You guys will see that video. Wasn't super happy with my chain. Any of you that cut in cold climates know your summer chain is not going to cut good in the winter, and vice versa. So I brought kind of an intermediate chain. I tried it out in the yard the other day, and it cut pretty good. Well, it's 20 degrees colder now, Celsius, and that chain just was not performing the other day. It's not bad, but it could be better. So spent a little time on the old chain grinder. When I just got home now, I have to make a fire in here. It's starting to get, it's almost, it's 45 degrees in here, which is good working temperature. The old Woodsman stove is huge, and that thing belts the heat out. So in the future, I might actually build a smaller saw shop, something small that I could put a smaller stove in. That would be a lot easier to heat. That's the plan anyways. I'll build like a shed. I actually framed this wall. This building, guys, there used to be a Quonset built onto the back of this building, 40 by 60. Well, that building was original and it was rotten. It had 3 layers of shingles on it, or 2 layers, and it was in disrepair. So we actually knocked that building down a few years ago, and I'm still cleaning it up. It's been slow going, but I actually framed a doorway into this wall, and eventually I'd like to put a door in here, and the saw shop will be in the back. So I'm going to cut right now. For those of you that are interested, I actually put this saw in the wood a couple days ago. 20-inch bar, full comp, pretty aggressive chain in, what were we cutting there? Manitoba maple. That stuff was hard as a rock. This thing performed very well. As you can see in this clip, and I'll put it in after this, she was pulling chain. So have a look-see, and I'll hit you guys back up when that clip's over. was first time in the wood. This saw's performing, and that chain is aggressive for that type of wood, and it was making major chips. So generally what I do with my saws, I run them in the shop here. I'll open the door, I'll let them idle 3-4 times to get them starting to, you know, do their thing. And then I will bar them up, usually with a short bar, and just lightly work them. That was maybe a little bit of a heavy session, but I want to see what the saw is going to do right now before I drive somewhere and go cutting with it. So okay, so we cut with this saw the other day, and when I brought it back into the shop, the handlebar was a little tweaked. So I put it in my vise and I straightened it out a little bit. Well, when I put it all back together, I noticed there's fuel right here leaking, okay? And this seam is coming apart in this tank. Reached out to some of my Mcculloch peeps. Hey guys, how's it going? And apparently this is a Mcculloch problem. So the first thing that was recommended to me, like you could actually see it's leaking like profusely right now. First thing that was recommended to me was to clean this seam and pack JB Weld into there. That's not a bad idea. But I thought to myself, if that doesn't work, that's a lot of wasted time. So I am going to attempt to pop this tank apart, which would be okay. I'll clean the tank and dry it out, and I'm going to attempt to seal this. I don't know if there's a gasket in there. I was looking at the IPL on my phone, and I don't see a gasket on the IPL. Maybe I just missed it. So we will decide what we're going to do with this when we do it. My thoughts are, depending on how this seam is, just clean up the seam and put some Moto Seal in there, and it should last forever. Moto Seal or Seal All, or even JB Weld would work. So unfortunately, I got to rip this whole saw back apart, guys, and it's sad but true. We got to dump this fuel out. Just give me a second here, guys. I'm going to grab my fuel tank, dump this out. Okay, guys. So I'm not 100% sure, but there's 3 screws in the bottom of this tank. Oh, okay. Give me a second here. I know, eh? Why would you even attempt to do that? I just thought to myself as I did it, because you know that those have been in there for 45 years. And, okay, before we get biblical on this, oh yeah, those are in there real good, like. Of course, you can't apply any heat. Okay, we will wake it up and see if that works. Ooh. Of course, I can't use a torch to heat these up because there's fuel in here. It's okay, we'll get them. I find with these old saws, oh yeah, okay. Patience is a virtue. Hold on a second here, guys. We got to get biblical with this thing. Okay, we're going to kick it old school on this project. I don't want to use air on this. Air could be pretty violent, and also with it being a flat screw, yeah, I cut myself today. Sheet metal. Air can be a little violent for this project. So I have one of these. This is old school Kinzo impact driver. I have had this for, oh geez, 20 years. My dad gave this to me 25 years ago when I was a youngster. I was in my teens working on motorcycles, antique motorcycles, for this situation. Now what happens with these, I don't know if you guys can see, okay? When you hit it with a hammer, it torques in. You guys that have been around have seen these, but okay. So if you don't have air, these work quite good for breaking screws like this loose. I'm just gonna hit it. No, that one's not gonna go. Let's try this one. If this doesn't come apart, we're gonna have to go to plan B. Let's try to not smash this fuel line. There we go. Ooh. Problem is too, they paint these after they assemble them, so. Nope. Okay. Well then, let's see, there's another one here. None of these are coming apart. Do I dare put heat to this? Okay, I'm gonna blow this tank out good, and now there are ways to do this so that the tank won't catch on fire, but I don't have any of those. You could put a gas in there that isn't flammable. I could rinse this out with water, which I don't really want to do. I'm just gonna blow it out, and I'm gonna put my heat gun on here very carefully, and after this thing's blown out. So give me a little bit here, guys, and I'll get this tank rinsed. I did clean this out really good though, so we should be okay. Just light heat. I don't want this thing getting smoking hot. These screws are fairly boogered to start with. I think this tank's been apart, or somebody's tightened them, or I don't know, a couple of them are boogered, so I made them even worse, so we'll deal with that. Just applying light heat. Okay, that's it. Grab this. Where is my large persuader? Look away. This is quite violent what I'm doing here. These are flatheads, so it's like super hard. We're gonna have to go this way. Super hard to get a good purchase on it. Ready? Same thing, let's do this one. I'm just going to pause you here and get the other ones out so we can actually see what's going on here. Okay, friends. Let's have every tool that we own on the bench at once. Pro tip of the day. That way you don't have to walk and get anything. Okay. Just lightly tapping this, and I can see it's breaking the seal. Whatever they used to put this together, it's on there. Okay, I'm gonna gently, and I mean gently, pry. There we go. Okay. Well, there is our fuel tank, and there is indeed no gasket. Okay, so this thing was leaking real bad in here. Okay, let's see if we can see anything. Leaking, you can see the corrosion. Sorry guys, you can see the corrosion. See these dark spots? That's corrosion. It was leaking real bad behind here. So I think it's good that we took this apart. Okay friends, what I did is put some felt marker on the top of the now cleaned up tank. I'm actually going to make a gasket for this. I believe there was a gasket in here stock. It was hard to tell, it was so degraded. And what I did is I tapped it with a hammer, a soft mallet, and left an impression. I traced the parts I could with a pen. But there you go. We have a Mcculloch fuel tank gasket. Now I'll spend the next hour or so cutting this out, but you guys get the idea. Okay friends, we're back. Clean this up. Some of this corrosion's like concrete, it won't come off, and I've been grinding away at it. I think we're good. So I took my gasket sheet again and I made a new gasket. I can't tell, the IPL I have doesn't have a breakdown of the fuel tank in it. So this fuel tank, when I put it back together, there's some gaps and some rough casting marks here. So I made the executive decision, and in fact there's a lip right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape it. Okay, this mating surface is very, very rough and corroded. There we go. Okay, so I'm trying to make it as flat as I can, and what we'll do is I'll put some silicone on here like we assemble our engines with, pop this new gasket on and screw her back together, and I think we'll be good. It's the only thing I could think of. Once again, those rolls of gasket maker are invaluable in a power saw shop. Living in Canada and shipping being what it is and the time it takes, it would be hard. It would be hard to get power saws completed if I was waiting for, you know, gaskets on eBay or any of that kind of stuff. So I make a lot of my own gaskets whenever possible. 272 gaskets, stuff like that, I'll buy those, but the more uncommon stuff like this Mcculloch, I'll attempt to make gaskets, and I'm just going to clean these mating surfaces and put this back together. I'm not even sure what was in here. I'm guessing there was a factory gasket, but again, it was so degraded that it just crumbled, and it was stuck good. So I had to use a wire wheel to address these mating surfaces. So what I'm going to do is, I got my factory screws here, and I'm going to try and match them up with some new screws and see if I can replace some of these screws that are boogered. And I'll hit you guys back up in a few minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, I've wiped this whole surface down. I like this to lay flat if possible, or flatter. I guess we'll do it this way, upside down. Okay, I'm going to take a little Moto Seal, because again, we know this stuff seals everything and anything, and it does not leak. We'll take a little bit of Moto Seal, just like when we're doing a cylinder. I'm going to put a liberal coat. I know this stuff doesn't break down in gasoline, and I'm not worried about it getting in an engine this time, so let's see if this works. Now again, this mating surface is very very rough. So you could take a piece of glass or granite that's been polished, and you could actually put those surfaces on it. Some people do that with cases. I think this will be fine though. This stuff fills up many thousandths of gap, and we're putting a gasket in there, so which I believe it already had. Again, I'm not sure. If I'm wrong, we can always take it apart again, because we're not in a hurry. We're in the power saw shop, and we're enjoying working on a vintage power saw, right? So I'm not in a hurry. I'm relaxed. Getting in a hurry is how you make major mistakes, or at least how I do. Okay, I'm going to put this down. We're going to line these holes up. Now, I didn't skim this gasket. I don't think that'll be necessary. Okay, these holes line up pretty good, so I'm happy about that. There's some overhang in that on the gasket. We can fix that up later. Okay, we just want to get this back together for now. Now we will do the other side. Again, liberal coat. It really doesn't need it on the back, but I want consistency so that when I cinch this down, it'll be level, if that makes sense. I don't think it really matters, but we would like this gasket to stay put in between the two halves, and at the back here, if say this gasket moved for whatever reason, because there's actually no fasteners holding this gasket together here on the back. If this thing moved, you wouldn't want to rip the gasket, or just, your mileage may vary, but I'm never lucky with anything. If there's going to be a problem, I'm going to find it, and that's just the way it goes for me. Okay, just keep coating this, making sure you get it around where the screws go, because that'll be a source of a leak. Now, we were leaking in this front corner here. It was very corroded in that corner, and the gasket was completely rotten, so this should fix it up. I think it will. We'll be positive. I think I can. Eh? Okay. So, wipe our fingers off. Now, I'm going to attempt to put this back together and line all the holes up, because once I move it, it might move the gasket. Okay, that hole's lined up. We filled our holes with assembly silicone. This is definitely a messy job. And it's an all tools on bench job, or all hands on deck, you gotta have every tool you own on the bench. Pro tip of the day, folks. I've always worked like that. I've always been a scatterbrain when I'm working. So focused on the task at hand that there's tools everywhere. That's fine. We'll clean up. Okay. I think we're close. Okay. I'm going to use Loctite. This is not permanent Loctite. Because one thing I'm learning about these Macs, anything and everything that'll rattle loose can and will, and I'm noticing that. I definitely have to be aware. Okay, once we get these first two, but yeah, everything seems to rattle loose on these, so I really try. See, this gasket's already shifted over at the back here. I really try and Loctite everything. I do that on most power saws. I use Loctite on most of the fasteners, especially like recoils and stuff like that. I like to use fasteners. Okay, I'm going to put this one in there. Again, maybe not the most exciting video, but just want to show you guys what the deal is, or how I go about repairing some of these problems. Now, there is one more fastener that I'm replacing, and I believe this screw is too long. Yeah, just give me a second here. I'm going to cut this screw down. 2 seconds, guys. Okay, I cut this fastener down. Always good to have a ton of fasteners on the farm here. I actually need to resupply. I'm getting a little bit low, but these are nice to work on, because like I was saying in an earlier video, most of these fasteners are not proprietary, so if you need something, you just go into your fasteners bin, and it's like there hasn't been many fasteners that I don't have here. So okay, so yeah, this gasket's a little bit bigger. Once we cinch this down, we will cut excess once we know that it's dried, and we won't disturb this until it's fully dried, because it's not like it's bolted on all four corners, right? It's not. It's bolted. It's bolted on the front in the center, and then there's one bolt hole right here on behind the handle, and one here on each side. So good. Our Moto Seal is oozing out. Just reef this down like we normally do. Nice and tight. checking that there's moto seal oozing out. There is. So not a ton though, and like I said, this surface, this tank, the mating surfaces are super rough. So hopefully this gasket is enough to seal it up. If it isn't, we'll have to go back and figure out another way. And in fact, yeah, this gasket's in there nice and tight. So you know what? I'm going to do a little trimming right now with the razor blade. There we go. Cut her right off straight. Okay, same with this. Trying not to damage the pristine low mile paint on this thing. I'm kidding, of course. This thing's been around. That's cool though. I kind of like them rough, guys. You're more inclined to use them when they're rough. At least I am. I don't like anything sitting on a shelf that's, that's just me though. Some guys have brand new saws that they've never run. That's cool. I've always used my stuff. I've never had a lot of stuff to use, so the stuff I do have is stuff that I need to use, if that makes sense, guys. Okay, I think this is gonna hold. I really do. I hope so. Anyways, you can see the sealant has oozed out on the sides here. I'm gonna take my finger and smear it, get rid of some of the extras. The smearing technique. Somebody taught me the smearing technique this week. You gotta use your finger and just, it's a Mcculloch thing apparently. Okay, I'm just trying to, sorry, I'm being silly, guys. It's kind of an inside joke. I'm just trying to get the excess off because it did get on the sides of the tank. And this moto seal, it does come off, but you gotta mean it once it's dry. So I would rather just get it off right now and save having to deal with it later. Again, if this isn't a pristine saw, you're not even going to see the moto seal because the tank is already discolored. But we like to make things as nice as we can here. That's just, I don't know, that's I guess I'm a little bit meticulous with my work. Not my bench, as you can see, but again, if we can't laugh at ourselves, who can we laugh at? But I don't know, when I'm working on something for somebody or myself, I don't know, I just like to give it, my all, everything that I got. I don't like cutting corners, and believe me, that was not fun getting this tank apart, but it's like, do it once. Hopefully this seals. I'm guessing it should, because like I said, it has a gasket in there now. And we put Moto Seal, liberal amount of Moto Seal, and that stuff seals, so it's very rare. You could also clean the tank out and coat it with a tank lining. Who was doing that? Brian Gray was doing that on his channel. Check out Brian Gray. He does Macs. He was restoring, I don't even know what model it is. I won't even pretend to remember, but he was restoring an old Mac, and he put a tank sealant in there. You motorcycle guys, I've done many a motorcycle tank. They used to call it, I think it was called Cream. It was a 2-part epoxy that you could buy. You Manitobans, I used to buy that from Kawasaki Joe at Canadian Motorcycle. Oh, I miss Kawasaki Joe. Kawasaki Joe, guys, was a legend in these parts. He owned Canadian Motorcycle. Canadian Motorcycle was the oldest motorcycle dealership in Canada. He worked there pretty much right until he died. And old Joe was a good man, and being a young man going into his shop, he used to help me out with parts, and Joe raced in like the 1950s. Just an absolute wealth of motorcycle knowledge, and just a good fella. He's sorely missed by me, and I'm sure a lot of people. And yeah, he worked right into his 80s, and just, you know, one of those fellas that when you're in a room with them, you feel special to just talk to the guy, or at least I did. And yeah, so anyways, cream. It's a 2-part epoxy. Okay, well, we're going to let this sit for at least 24 hours so that we can know if we succeeded or failed. But there you guys go. One repaired Mcculloch tank. I'm going to set you guys up here. Okay, folks, so here we go. We bit the bullet. When I first saw that, I was like, I don't want to take this apart. But whatever, right? Thinking about it is often worse than doing it. And we got it back apart. I'll have to address this again, and, you know, go through all the things that we already did on this power saw. But yeah, it leaked, and it is what it is, right? If you guys want to play with these old saws, be prepared. They're rarely are they turnkey, whether it's Mcculloch's, Pioneers, Home Lights, any of the old stuff, even like old 266s from the early 80s. Most of the time, all the rubber parts are no good. Fuel line, your gas caps will leak, your crank seals are leaking. It's with most old saws, guys, I go right through them. Like this one right here. You guys, I think I've had this on the channel once or twice. This is a pristine 1984 61 Rancher. We're going to do something with this one day. But I've had this saw for a while. I've never run it. Why? Because it needs everything. It's got good compression. It's a nice, clean, low-mile saw. But it's like, I assume that this needs everything. Because it probably does. So one of these days when we get around to it, I'll go through this saw and we'll reseal everything and crank seals and yada yada, right? But so that's just the way I do things. I get an old saw, whether I'm keeping it, selling it, whatever, I go through it and I reseal it. That way, you know what happens, guys? You fire the saw up, you cut wood with it. If you don't, you're constantly tuning the carburetor, and it's just, I don't know, it's not a good deal. Okay, Mcculloch fuel tank. This is my attempt at repairing it. Hopefully it works. And next time you guys see this saw, we'll be back together and in the wood. The next video of this saw is actually, I shot it previous to today, and I went cutting. Was not happy with that chain, so the saw rips, but the chain was not doing the saw justice. So I reground that chain today, and some of these ported saws, guys, all ported saws like a sharp chain, but some of these ported saws, it really pays to work on your chain. They'll all cut well, but if you're really particular about how fast and how well your saw cuts, putting a good chain on a warm ported power saw, especially one that's fast, will absolutely change night and day. Bucket's Home Light there, I can sharpen a chain. I'm decent at it. I'm not a logger. You loggers out there, you guys just give her, right? But I cut with that with a good sharp chain. Bucket's chain makes that saw even faster, and that's the straight deal, guys. So if you want a port, make sure you know how to file, because it'll only make your saws better. A stock saw is better with a sharp chain. I'm going to do a sharpening video one of these days, but for now, we're just porting stuff. Anyhow, as always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later, guys. I appreciate you.